Let's roll. We have Hey Gimel. Because they said anything that carries or is carried upon a contaminated couch is tahor except for a person. Anyone who carries or is carried upon an animal carcass is tahor except for one who moves it. If Elliot says before that he carries it.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. You started in the middle of something. It's at the beginning of Dalet Zion. He's sitting on a bed.
It's not why I have this? This is the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I don't know what I did. Okay. All right, Dalet Zion. If a zav was sitting upon a bed and there were four shawls under the four legs of the bed, they are tame because the bed cannot stand on three legs. Reb Shimon rules them tahor. If a zav was riding upon an animal and there were four shawls under the animal's four legs, they're tahor because the animal can stand on three legs. If there was a single shawl under its two forelegs or under its two hind legs, or under one of its forelegs or one of its hind legs, it's tame. Rabbi Yossi says a horse conveys tuma through its hind legs, excuse me, while a donkey conveys tuma through its forelegs. For the primary support of a horse is on its hind legs, whereas the primary support of a donkey is on its forelegs. That was wrong. The primary source of a horse is on its hind legs, but the primary source of a donkey is on its forelegs.
That's what
If
you
a
said.
zav sat upon the beam of an olive press, utensils that are in the pressing basket are tame. But if he sat upon the launderer's press, utensils that are underneath it are tahor. Rebbe Nechemna rules them tame. One who touches a zav, or whom the zav touches, or one who moves the zav, or whom the zav moves, contaminates food and beverages and immersible utensils through contact, but not through carrying. Rabbi Yeshua stated a general rule. Any person who contaminates his clothing during the time of his contact with a source of contamination contaminates food and beverages to the degree that they will become beginning level, and contaminates another person's hands to the degree that they will become asheni, but does not contaminate people or earthenware utensils. After his separation from the source that rendered him tummy, he contaminates beverages to the degree that they will become beginning level, and food in another person's hands to the degree that they will become shady, but does not contaminate clothing. And furthermore, they stated a general rule: anything that is carried on top of a zav is tameh, whereas anything that a zav is carried upon is tahor, except for something that is suitable for use as a couch or seat, and except for a person. How so? In the case where the finger of a zav is under a row of bricks and the tahor person is on top of the row of bricks, that person contaminates two and invalidates one. When he separates, he contaminates one and invalidates one. If the tummy zav is on top, the row of brooks, and the tahor person is underneath it, the person contaminates two and invalidates one. When he separates, he contaminates one and invalidates two. In a case where food,
Validates
beverage,
one. And it validates one.
invalidates one. In a case where food, beverages, a couch, or a seat, or ordinary utensils are on top of the row of bricks, they contaminate two and disqualify one. When they separate, when they separate, they contaminate one and disqualify one. But in the case where a couch or a seat are underneath the row of bricks, they contaminate two and disqualify one. When they separate, they further contaminate two and disqualify one. And if food, beverages, or ordinary vessels are underneath the row of bricks, they remain tahor. Okay,
Okay.
this is where we
Mipnei
should have.
she'amru. So it carries on and says, well, let's just explain. Because Mipnei she'amru, kol hanosei v'nisal gabe mishkav. Anything that is that carries or is carried on top of a mishkav is tahor. Chutz min ha'adam. The only thing that a mishkav is like a couch that has been contaminated by a zav. Only has the effect of being matame a person, but not anything else that it doesn't actually touch. So whether if it's sitting on it, if a mishkav then is put on top of a table, the table does not become tame from it. If there's, let's say that there's a cloth in between.
Right.
Whereas
Yeah.
if a person picks it up, he would become tame. Okay. Kol hanose v'nisa al gabe hanavela tahor. And similarly with nevela, nevela also has tumas masa by carrying something. Okay. Chutz min mesit. Only a person who moves the nevela will actually become tame. Okay. So just holding its weight is not sufficient. So if somebody hands somebody else a bag containing nevela, he does not
Right.
become tame from just holding it. He actually has to move it in order to become tame. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Afanose. So Rabbi Eliezer says also one who just carries it. Now over here, this actually sounds like Rabbi Eliezer is coming to be machmir, to say that even if he stands still and is holding it, but the Gemara comes and explains that this is actually a qualification that if a person moves it without carrying it, he's still he's still sorry, it's a say. He's actually being more makil and saying that you only become tame from moving an avela if you're also carrying its weight, but not if you just take a stick and poke it.
Mhm.
Okay. And the halacha does not follow Rav Eliezer, I don't think. Let me just be sure of that. Um, um, yeah, halacha is not like Rabbi Eliezer here. Okay. Kol hanose v'nisa al gabe hameis. Anything that is carried or carries a dead body remains tahor, chutz min ha'mahil, unless it is actually in the airspace of the mace. So, for example, again, if you have some poles that are carrying the mace, and uh, and a person, well, and let's say you have kalim that are holding it up. The kalim do not become tame from holding the weight of the mace.
Mhm.
That's the chumrah of the zav. The zav transmits tumah through its weight, but the mace does not transmit tumah through its weight. Only, but it does transmit through an oil, which a zav doesn't. So we learned that already. There's a chumrah and a kula by each one. Okay. Chutz min ha'mahil va'adam b'zman shehu mesid. And if a person moves a dead body, then even if he's not in the ohel of the dead body, he will also become tame from moving the body.
So the procedure for burial in the time here and this time was different than that. Now we usually have people who pick up the mace and
Yeah,
carry it.
we're not talking about this is the procedure of the burial. We're just talking about if it happened.
Right, I'm saying right, but I'm
It's
just
not
saying
that
that they
that's
picked up the with using the poles that they picked it up, you know, or they picked up the however they had the handles.
I'm not saying anything about how they used to do burials and not do burials. I think it's pretty clear that they did do burials differently in those days. I mean, if you recall, the burial cave idea was that they would first bury the person for a year or whatever and wait for the body to decompose, and then they'd come and gather the bones and
Bones,
take the
right,
bones and
right,
put them into the burial cave.
right.
Which like we hear that today and we think, ah, no, just no.
Yeah,
But that's a way of preserving space. Instead, we've got cemeteries full because every person who's buried is taking up the full space of a body. Um,
right.
so you know, yesh mashu b'zeh. Daled. Miktas tame ala tahor, miktas tahor ala tame. If part of the tame person's weight goes onto a tahor person, or part of the tahor person's weight goes on the tame person, or chibure tame ala tahor, or chibure tame, which is things that are attached to him, like his hair or his nails. They're not like strictly part of his body, but they're attached to him. Chibure tahor ala tame, or hair of the tahor person is resting on the tame person. Boom, tame. Sorry, okay?
Yeah.
Even if it's not the full weight on person to person we're talking about. Okay. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Miktas Tame ala Tahor Tame, Miktas Tahor ala Tame Tahor. Says if part of the Tame person's weight goes on the Tahor person, then he agrees that the Tahor person will become Tame. But if only part of the Tahor person's weight goes on the Tame person, he disagrees with this and says that this remains Tahor. Okay, and again, halacha not like Rabbi Shimon.
Mm.
Mishnah, hey, hatame al miktas mishkav. What happens if a tame person is partially on a mishkav? In other words, is on something that is designed to take weight, a chair, a carpet, something like that. Okay. Hatame al miktas mishkav, but tahor al miktas mishkav. And let's say they're both standing on the same bench. Okay. Hamishkav Tame. So then so when we say tamei over here, the tahor person himself also becomes tamei. Um, we don't say that just because he's only on part of the mishkav he's okay, because the mechanism is quite simple over here. The tame is standing on part of the bench, therefore the bench becomes tame, and immediately the bench, being a mishkav, will transmit the tumah to the tower person. Miktas tame ala mishkav. Now, part of the tame person is on the mishkav. So he sticks his one foot up on the bench to tie his laces. Okay. Well, miktas tahor ala mishkav, and the tahor person at the same time is also tying his laces on the same bench. This is tahor. Okay. Why is this tahor? The mishkav itself is tahor. Or because the is there once the mishkav, once the bench remains tahor, it only becomes tame if the majority of the weight of the tame is placed on it. Remember, we had all those cases where he was riding on a horse and there was one under each foot. That's
Right.
that's not the majority of his weight, or he was on those chairs. He was on a number of chairs going across his body, and no one of them was carrying the majority of his weight, and they remained tahor. Okay. Nimtzeis tuma nichneses lo v'yotzes mimenu b'miuto. So tuma comes into him and goes out from him b'miuto, with the minority of him. And what does that actually mean? To the mishkav. Mishkav. So the tumah can come in through the minority of the mishkav, because the tumas hazav comes into the mishkav, to a tower mishkav, with just by the zav placing his weight on part of it. Okay, so it doesn't have to be the whole thing taking its weight, or any part of it will transmit the tumah immediately to everywhere. Okay, v'chein kikar shel truma. Similarly, with a loaf of truma bread, shehu nasun al gabe mishkav. If it is placed onto a mishkav, v'hanayab in time, if there's a piece of paper in between them, bein milamadan, bein milamatan, tahor, whether it's above or below. Now, I don't understand how it could be above or below. Below, I understand. If the paper is interceding between the bench and the truma,
Right.
then for sure it will be tahor. But why lemalan? Shakika nisal gabe mishkav. Oh, ben milamatan shakika nose is a mishkav. Oh, if the right. So if the mishkav is balanced on the truma, but there's a piece of paper in between them. So it doesn't matter what's on top and what's on the bottom, as long as there's a piece of paper in between the mishkav and the truma remains tahor. Also, reverting to taras, if you have a stone from a house that has got taras, and it touches truma, and you place a piece of truma on it, but there's a piece of paper in between, again it is tahor. Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Shimon says that the stone from the house that had saras is also metame ba'ohel, like a mace. So therefore it would. I was actually also just thinking, isn't a stone metame ba'ohel? And since the kikar is ma'ahil on the stone, or the other way around, it is tame. So I read this and I thought, that's funny. I thought that Taras is Matame Ba'ohel. Maybe it's just. I think it might have been an argument actually. It might have been an argument, Tanaim, as to whether the stone is also Matame Ba'ohel, because the person certainly is.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Go back.
Machshir. Okay, Vav Zion. The following do not convey tumah, nor do they affect texture, sweat, pus, and excrement, and the blood that emerges with them, and the fluids of a child born in the eighth month. Rabbi Yossi says, except for his blood, and someone who drinks the water of Tiberias, even though the excretion that emerges is clear, blood of slaughter or of a domesticated animal, of a non-domesticated animal, and fowl that are non-kosher, and blood of bloodletting for therapeutic purpose, that Eleazar considers these to be tameh. Reb Shimon ibn Elazar says milk of a male is tahor. The milk of a woman will cause susceptibility to tumor, whether it emerges is to one's satisfaction or is not to one's satisfaction. But the milk of an animal will only cause susceptibility to tumor if its emergence is to one's satisfaction. Rabbi Kiva says the matter can be be proven through a Kalvachoma, where if the milk of a woman, which is intended only for children, will cause susceptibility to tumor, whether its emergence was to one's satisfaction or was not to one's satisfaction, then animal milk, which is intended for both children and adults, is it not logical that it should cause susceptibility to tumor, regardless of whether the emergence was to one's satisfaction or was not to one's satisfaction? The sages said to him, not so, for the milk of a woman that did not emerge to one's satisfaction generates susceptibility to tumor. It is because the blood of her wound causes susceptibility to tumor. Well, the milk of an animal that did not emerge to one's satisfaction likewise generates susceptibility to tumor when the blood of a wound does not cause susceptibility to tumor. Rabbi Kiva said to them, I am more stringent regarding milk than I am regarding blood. For if one expresses milk for therapeutic reasons, the milk will cause susceptibility to tumor. But if one lets blood for therapeutic purposes, the blood will not cause susceptibility to tumor. And the sages said to Rabbi Akiva, the law concerning baskets of olives or grapes will serve as proof. For if liquids ooze from the baskets to the owner's satisfaction, they will cause susceptibility to tumor. But if liquids ooze not to his satisfaction, they will not cause susceptibility to tumor. He said to them, not so. If you say thus concerning baskets of olives and grapes, it is because in the beginning the fruits were food, and in the end the liquid that oozes is a beverage. Will you say the same concerning milk? The beginning and the end, which was a beverage. Until this point was the response. Shimon said, from here on we would answer in his presence as follows. Rainwater will serve as proof, since in the beginning and in the end it is a beverage, and yet it does not cause susceptibility to tumor unless it emerges to one's satisfaction. He said to us, not so. If you say thus concerning rainwater, it is because the majority of rainwater is not for the benefit of people, but for the benefit of land and trees. The majority of milk is for the benefit of people. Hadran Allah.
Adrian Allah Maseches Machshirin, and one from Zavim.
Sorry. I don't have any. I didn't know we were doing that. I'm sorry.
No, we were on Zavim earlier. Come back, come back, come back. We started with Zavim. That was the first
Oh,
one.
that was right. I thought so. I'm looking through my pile over here. And 1-1, Aleph Aleph. Okay, this I didn't know. Sorry. Regarding someone who had one Zav emission, Beit Shammai said he is like a woman who observes a day free of uterine discharges, corresponding to the day on which he experienced a uterine discharge. But Beis Hillel says he is like someone who had a seminal emission. If he had one Zav emission, on the second day he stopped, and on the third day he had two emissions or one emission, if that is as lengthy as two, Beit Shammai says he is a full Zav. Beis Hillel says he conveys tumor to couches and seats and requires immersion in the spring, but he is exempt from an offering. But Elazar ben Yehuda said Beis Shammai agree in this case that he is not a full Zav. And regarding what do they disagree? Regarding someone who has two Zav admissions or one admission that is lengthy as two, and the second day he stopped, and the third day he had one admission, in which case Beis Shammai says he is a full Zav. But Beis Hillel says he conveys tumor to couches and seats and requires immersion in a spring, and thus he is exempt from an offering.
Okay.
Good. Okay. Nida.
Yeah.
Okay. Vav Hey. Every food that is subject to tithes contracts food tumor, but there can be a food that contracts food tumor but is not subject to the tithes. And every growth that is subject to payah is subject to tithes, but there can be a growth that is subject to tithes but is not subject to payah. And every animal that is subject to rishis gaz is subject to the priestly gifts, but there can be an animal that is subject to the priestly gifts but is not subject to the rishis hagaz.
Okay. Nice and quick.
Okay. And then
Design.
okay, science. Regarding a trowel carved on a rock, we cannot draw water from mekatas from it, nor consecrate mekatas nor in it, or sprinkle mekatas from it, and it does not require a sealed cover, and it does not disqualify a mikvah. If a vessel and one attached, if it was a vessel and one attached it to the ground with plaster, one may draw water from mekatos from it, and consecrate mekatos in it, and sprinkle mekatos from it, and it requires a sealed cover and disqualifies a mikvah. If the bottom of the trough was perforated and he plugged the perforation with a rag, the water inside the trough is invalid because it is not encircled by a vessel. If one perforated the vessel on its side and plugged the perforation with a rag, the water inside it is valid since it is encircled by a vessel. If one made a rim of clay for the trough and the water went there, it is invalid. For if the rim is strong enough, it can be carried with the trough, the water is valid. Regarding two troughs and one boulder, if one consecrated made katos in one of the troughs, the water in the second trough is not consecrated. If the trough was perforated from one to the other with a hole the size of a skin bottle's tube, or if water was flowing over them, even only a flow as thin as a garlic peel, and one consecrated made katos in one of them, the water in the second trough is consecrated. Regarding two rocks that one positioned near each other and made into a trough, and similarly regarding two kneading bowls, and similarly regarding a trough that split in two, the water between them is not consecrated. And if he carried with them lime or gypsum so they could be carried as one, the water between them is consecrated.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're gonna, no, we have enough. Okay, good.
Okay, let's go for Tamura.
Okay, hey, Dal. If one declares this animal is hereby a truma, a tamora for an ola, a tamora for a shalom, it is therefore a tamora for an ola. These are the words of Rav Meir. Roshi said if he intended to say from this outset it is possible to utter two designations simultaneously, the decorations stand. However, if after he declared this is hereby a tamora for an ola, he then reconsidered and declared a tamora for a shalom and a tamora for an ola. If one declares this unconsecrated animal is hereby in place of this offering, the substitute of this or the exchange of this, the unconsecrated animal there becomes a tamora. However, if he declares this offering is thereby consecrated unto an unconsecrated animal, the unconsecrated animal is not a tamora. But if the consecrated animal was to blemish, then it becomes unconsecrated and he must make up its value. If one declares the animal is hereby in place of a katos or in the place of an ola, he has not said anything. However, he declares in place of this katos, in place of this ola, in the place of that katos, or in the place of an ola that I have in the house, or if I had such an offering, his words stand. If one declared regarding a non-kosher animal or blemished animal, they are hereby an ola, he has not said anything. These are hereby for an ola, then they are sold, and he brings with them their proceeds as an ola.
Okay.
And
Abakama.
Comma. Okay. Aleph Gimel. The valuation is in the money. If the payment is made with money's worth in the presence of a court and by the testimony of witnesses who are free men and Jews, women are governed by the law of damages. The damagee and the damager are included in the payment. There are five that tame and five that are muadim. The animal is not muad, neither to go, nor to push, nor to bite, nor to lie down, nor to click. Shane is muad to eat what is fit for it. Regal is muad to break as it walks. And the muad bull, the bull that damages while on the premise of the damagee, and man. The wolf, the lion, the bear, and the leopard, the bardellis, and the snake are mudim. Rabbi Eliezer says when they're domesticated, they're not mudin, but the snake is always muad. What is the difference between a tom and a muad? Only that the owner of the tom pays half the damages for its body, and the owner of the muad pays the full damage from the best of the property. Where are we? In what way is regal considered muad? To break as it walks. The animal is muad to walk in its usual manner and break. If it was kicking or pebbles were flying from under his feet and it broke vessels, he pays half the damages. If he stepped on a vessel and broke it, and he fell on a vessel and broke it, for the first one he pays the full damages, for the second one he pays half the damages. Fowl are considered muadin to walk in their usual manner and break. And if a thread was tied to his feet and it was jumping or broke vessels, he pays half the damages.
Okay, I'm gonna have to leave you at this point. You can do Erev and
Okay. Thank you. Have a great day. I'll speak tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Thank you.